All right, let's just get started. So hi everyone, welcome to our Wednesday webinars at Wharton. I'm Christian Rosky. I'm a faculty member here at Wharton. Thank you all for joining. We're really happy you could all be here. This week, our special guest is Sara Giacomini. She is a talented performer. She's a wonderful teacher. She's been at Wharton for the last 3 summers, and before that was a guest artist, would come in as a guest artist, and also has taught during the year for some of our classes as well. And so I'm going to let her take the stage here and introduce herself and talk a little bit about how you got into the world of performing arts.
Sure. So hi, I'm Sarah. As Mr. Chris said, I found my way to Wharton about 4 summers ago through another teacher that I knew. And so I've been performing since probably I was 4 or 5. I was pretty young. I started in doing a lot of community theater, and I had a local community college that had theater classes and musical classes and things like that. So that's really how I started. My first role, I'm not kidding, was one of literal 101 Dalmatians. There were 101 of us children, and the older Dalmatians were adults, professional actors and stuff, and I loved it since then. I did some things as a child. I had a manager. I went into the city for auditions, and then in middle school, I discovered sports. So I kind of, the acting and stuff kind of went on the back burner for a little bit. I still did it, but not really. I was doing basketball and cheerleading and softball and things like that. And then when I went to high school, and right before high school, I started getting back into community theater. And when I went to high school, we had a spring musical every spring. And my high school was really big into music. We had a big music department. I was in the marching band. I played clarinet. So that really helped to fuel my creative needs. So I did all the musicals in high school, and then I decided I wanted to study that in college. So I went to Fairleigh Dickinson in Madison, and I studied musical theater. While I was there, I pretty much discovered that I was really more into acting than musicals as a whole. So I sort of tried to pursue that, tried to understand what I liked about that. And then I graduated college with my BA in musical theater. And I tend to do a lot of children's theater. I'm a teacher, so I like working with children and I like performing for children. So some of my credits include, I went on a national tour. We went up and down the East Coast and across to the Midwest, and we did Cat in a Hat. I played Sally. We had like 130 shows or something like that. And then I also played George in Curious George at the Growing Stage, which is a small professional theater in New Jersey that I loved working at. And I had lines, but I didn't speak in any English. I just chittered. So that was super fun. And then I also played Junie B in Junie B. Jones. She's a lot like me. We're a little bit stubborn and feisty. So that was fun. So right now I'm just trying to study more Shakespeare. I like doing Shakespeare a lot, and I'm trying to study more straight acting and just take this time to perfect my craft so that when we get out of here, I can go back to auditioning and stuff like that. And I'm also spending time learning a little bit more about like film and TV. So that's that. Mr. Chris, should I talk a little bit about my how I got into teaching?
I was actually going to ask you, you talked a little bit about your some roles and shows that you've done. Do you have a favorite role or show that you were in?
This is so funny because Miss Timmy asked Miss Lily this 2 weeks ago. So I was taking notes on what I should do when it was my turn to be up here. And she said Hermia in Midsummer Night's Dream, which is the same answer that I have. So Hermia is a character in Midsummer Night's Dream that I love. There's a quote about her. It's, "Though she be but little, she is fierce." And I sign all my emails that way, and I really felt connected to that role. So I thought it was so funny when Miss Lily said the same answer. And I did that show in college, so I would really like to do it professionally as well.
Awesome. That is funny. So yeah, then now talk about when did you decide you wanted to become a theater educator?
Yeah, so when I was in college, we had, I want to get this right because TAs mean a bunch of things. We had teaching assistants. So when I was a junior, I was a teaching assistant for some of the younger classes, like the beginning acting and things like that. So I sort of worked alongside my teacher, did some administrative stuff, and helped out with warm-ups and things like that. And I really developed a love for doing that. I'm organized. I like children. I like helping other people. I love acting, so I want other people to love it too. So I did that. And then when I was in college, I decided I wanted to get an internship in arts education. So I applied for a bunch of internships, and I started as an intern at George Street Playhouse, which was in downtown New Brunswick then. And I interned for 2 years, I believe, and then I co-taught for a year or two, and then I taught myself for their summer theater academy. And we also, George Street Playhouse also has a residency program where you can go into schools and teach the students some subject that they're struggling with. So I remember we talked about hurricanes. They were learning about erosion in science class. So we did a little play about that. And getting it into their bodies and getting up and doing a play about it really made them understand the subject better. And that's sort of the whole point of these residencies, was to go in and do that and help them and talk about subjects from a human point of view. So that's something I really like to do. And then one of my colleagues at George Street Playhouse was working at Wharton 4 summers ago, and he needed a sub to come in. So I came in and I substituted for a guest artist position. And then the next year I came in as a lead teacher. And so I've been there ever since for the past 3 summers. So I've also worked at a theater called Black Box Performing Arts Center in Teaneck as a teacher, teaching their shows. And some of their philosophy is they really are into improv. So they have the students improv how they're feeling, improv what they want to do in this scene, improv I'm going to be a carpet, I'm going to be a tree, I'm going to be the dog in this scene. So it's been really cool because it's a creative way to get all my students on stage at the same time. So that's been nice.
Awesome. My next question is, do you have a favorite show or like general type of show that you have done or would like to do with your students?
So I like to do anything with them. I love challenging my students, and I like to pick the show based on who I know is going to be in my class. So if I know I'm going to have returning students that I know about, I like to pick shows that I think they'll like, shows that have an appropriate amount of roles or have, people that can be doubled in different parts, or like I said, things that challenge them. So I don't have a favorite genre, but anything like that.
Do you have a favorite show that you've done?
With my students?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did Wonderland. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of people don't know the show. It's Frank Wildhorn. He's a composer. He did Bonnie and Clyde and Civil War. And he did this crazy show based on Alice in Wonderland, who is my favorite character. And I did it with my students. It was my first show by myself, teaching by myself. And they loved it. The characters are great. The songs are great. Everything is great. So that was definitely an awesome experience.
Awesome. We are going to shift into opening up for any audience questions. So any attendees, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Ms. Sara, please feel free to type them into the little Q&A box on the bottom.
Cool.
We have a question. Cecilia asked, what was your worst show ever?
Oh man, my worst show ever. I have an answer to this. I'm not going to be sharing the name because the show is still around and happening and trying to get off the ground. But after college, I did a few shows that I loved. And I worked with a woman who was doing another show at the time, and they were looking for a role for a young student, someone my age, a grad student or something like that. And I agreed to do the show, and I was super excited because it was in New York City. It was in a theater that was an awesome space, technically off Broadway, but not really. That depends on the number of seats, and it doesn't matter. So I was so excited about it, and I did the show. And like opening night came around and we knew we weren't ready and people literally did not know their lines. So there were scripts, people had scripts open on stage just in case like something went awry, just to get the plot back on track. And there were multiple times that people skipped like huge chunks of things and plot points were just gone. So it really taught me about making sure you're doing the work that you need to be doing and focusing on what you need to do so that you can, be responsible for yourself and also be responsible for other people around you and help them if they need it. So, but it was a nightmare. I think I left it before it was supposed to be over, but we had multiple people doing the same part. So I didn't leave them high and dry, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So that was my worst show ever.
Wow, that does sound really nerve-wracking.
It was nerve-wracking because, you have your own responsibilities and then you have other people's.
Well, and that's something like you probably agree that we have to do when we're teaching and like teach that lesson as well. Because there are a lot of times where someone skips a part by accident or, forgets their line and has to remind someone else their line or something. So I don't see any more audience questions, but I have a question.
Great.
What do you think has been the hardest part of transitioning to online?
There's a lot of things. I'm really into theater. I know a lot of actors my age and people that I know are really breaking into the film and TV world, and I would love to do that, and I'm trying to learn more about it, but I really love theater. It's my first love, and it's something that I always want to go back to. And in theater, we want to connect with each other. We want to be on stage. We want to be trusting each other. And there's so many more things we can do when we're on stage with people in terms of using our bodies, making shapes, making tableaus and statues, and such cool effects that you can do that are just not necessarily possible when you're not in the same space. So the hardest part for me, especially for teaching theater, because I've done some readings on Zoom, some Shakespeare readings and stuff, but it's never really a big performance on Zoom for me. I haven't had anything like that, like my students have. So for teaching, it's been really nice to have students who are creative and can come up with different ways to enter and exit that you never thought of, and the muting feature on Zoom and covering their camera and just creative things that make me so happy that those things are making it easier for me, because I was like, I don't know how to teach on Zoom. I've never done this before. Has anyone done this before? Not putting on a play. So that's definitely been the hardest part, is really trying to just adapt something that works so well in person to online.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions right now. But if we want to transition into a performance, we're going to shift into audience mode, sort of. Miss Sarah's going to perform a monologue for us. So.
Sure.
It's all yours.
Yeah. So when Miss Timmy talked to me about doing this, she asked if I would do a monologue, and I said, absolutely. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing a monologue from a play called College Colors. It is written by one of my professors from college. Haha. And I actually did this play as a staged reading, which is where you have the script in front of you, but you kind of have blocked it a little bit and you're up. So I've done it before and I loved it. I loved the character. So I use her monologue all the time. So I'll be doing that. I'll just move my chair. Ooh. Okay. Have you decided on a strategy for tomorrow? You have to have a plan. You can't assume you're going to get your first choice or even your second. My dad says cast a wide net. That way you're sure to catch a fish. But, I mean, I don't know. You don't want to look desperate. Rush. Rush starts tomorrow, like for sororities. What's your first choice? No, I'm just hoping I don't end up in the Mu Gamma News. Oh, when I toured the campus, my tour guide was in Mu Gamma Nu, and she kept picking her nose, like right in the middle of a tour. And I know you shouldn't judge a whole sorority by one sister, but I asked around, and apparently she's not the only nose picker, if you know what I mean. Oh my God, the Mu Gamma News were your first choice, weren't they? I'm so sorry. I'm probably wrong. No, I'm definitely wrong. I'm wrong all the time, practically, always. And besides, you know what? I picked my nose this morning in the car on the way here. No, seriously, I did. I mean, who doesn't, right? I mean, sometimes a Kleenex just isn't like sufficient, you know? That tour guide girl was really nice. Like the nicest tour guide ever. Even better than Harvard. I'm sorry. So that's fun. I love her. That's like how I am in real life, like awkward and correcting myself and fixing everything I said. So I love to do
I
that.
love that. I love that monologue. I've seen you do it before. Oh, we
Well,
have
thanks,
someone.
Brian.
Mariah said, "Yay, Sarah! Thank you."
It feels weird because we're not performing right now, so we're not auditioning, so we're a little bit out of practice. So I definitely did practice a couple monologues today. I was like, okay, this is what it feels like. So,
Mm-hmm. So we were gonna have an activity with some students, but some of them are not here yet because we told them to come a little bit later. But I thought, I don't know if you had something or I have like an idea of what we could do.
Sure.
Why don't you describe a typical day of summer camp? Like what you would do in a typical day or week briefly.
Should I talk about like now or in person? Doesn't matter.
Sure. What about now? Or both?
Yeah, I'll do in person first since that's usual, and then I'll adapt it. So a typical day at Wharton is you come in, if you do the full camp, actually it doesn't matter. If you do Theater Explorers, you come in at 9, and from 9 to 1 o'clock, we work on our play. So we do a combination of singing, dancing, acting, and writing. So on the first day, we have a theme for the week. So this week is Trolls. And on the first day, my students come in, and I usually describe the movie or whatever it is that we're working on so that they have an idea of it. We talk a little bit about the story, and we story mount in it, which means putting things in order and finding out what the climax is and what the resolution is. So we'll do that, and then we'll break up into groups, and I'll give my students a little bit of guidance on what we need in each scene and what characters we need. So they'll do that, and they'll write those. That's on the first day. And then I said, we'll do some acting and singing. And then we have lunch from 1 to 2, and some campers either leave before lunch or leave after lunch. And then at 2, from 2 to 3:30, there's always a guest artist. So that's what I did my first summer. I came in and I actually did the activity that I'm gonna do in the afternoon, right, today. And then they go to the pool, and then they come back and they chill and they leave. So then on the next day, usually on Tuesday, we usually get our script, get our parts, and run the play, read it through. And then the next few days is just developing the rest of the play. So continuing to work on the song, finding out our solos in the song, learning our solos in the dance, doing blocking, which means where you are on the stage, any number of things, games, breaks, things like that. So for online, and then we have our shows on Friday with our dress rehearsal. So online, it's similar, but it's smushed a little bit. So right now, my Theater Explorers camp is from 9 to 12 every day, including Friday. And then we have a break from 12 to 1 for lunch, and then we'll have our performance at 1. And most of our performances, either in person or online, are about 20 minutes, anywhere from 15 to 25. And so we're doing the same thing, we're just doing it online. So I've taken a lot of my activities, including how to write a show, and I've adapted them to online. So I'll give the students what they need, or we'll talk it through. I'll say, okay, what would your character say now? What needs to happen next? And we have this fun thing in Zoom called breakout rooms. So I always have a co-teacher with me. Sometimes it's Mr. Chris. This week I have Miss Amia with me. So we can break out into different groups to write our show. And we learn the dance online, just like we do in person. We try to make sure our cameras are set up so we can see our whole bodies. And then we learn the song online, just like we would in person. And something that's interesting about Zoom performances is that when you sing together on Zoom, there's a delay, so it doesn't really work. So Mr. Chris and I have worked together before doing this. We did the first class online together, so we sort of figured it out. So my students are actually recording their song. So during camp, I'll take someone into a breakout room and we'll record the song, so that way I can put all their voices together and they can hear the song together. So that's been interesting because, normally you learn things together in person, so you can blend and you can sing together and you can put harmonies and things like that and figure out the timing, but that doesn't work on Zoom. So we record the song and then we just practice our play just like normal. And there's interesting things like, exiting is just like going off camera instead of like physically leaving the stage because there is no stage. And it's been fun. I've had my students decorate. We've had our students decorate our little space. I'll actually show you mine right now. So we're working on trolls this week. So this week I have Poppy in her little troll space with her little troll houses. So we get to decorate our space like it's a stage. And we sometimes turn off our cameras, we mute ourselves. It's crazy because those are things you never have to think about. Like you have someone controlling the lights, you have someone controlling the sound, and now it's mute yourself so I can't hear you. It's really interesting. So that's a typical day in camp. That was a long-winded answer.
It was good. It was detailed, and that pretty much, describes everything. So next we are going to do an activity. Hopefully the last couple of students come back before we have to start. But why don't you tell us a little bit about the activity and like what it's good for, what you'd use it for, how you would use it.
Yeah, great. So like I said, this is something that I do all the time with my students. It's something I learned at George Street Playhouse, how to adapt any piece of material into a play. Most of the time it's a mini play because a lot of times it's, you're in school, so you don't have that much time to work with the students, or you're at camp and you don't have that much time. So I can take any piece of any book, any story, any folklore, any legends, anything that you want, a campfire tale, anything you want, and you can make it into your own play. So how I like to do that is using tableaus. And tableaus are statues, so a person making a statue, and it's a group of statues together that tell a story. So normally when you're in person, it's really interesting and cool because you can see the different shapes that these statues are making together. Like maybe someone's guarding someone with their body, maybe someone's shooting at someone, I don't know. So it's really interesting. I'm going to see how it can adapt over Zoom. I think it'll work. It might be a little different, but we'll see. So you pick a story that has a beginning, middle, end, super simple. I have an example for later that's a minute long. And you start small. So maybe you start with a theme. Maybe it's not even a story. Maybe it's one word. Maybe it's the word the storm or the adventure or something like that. So everyone makes statues based on that. And what's really cool about this, and something that I really miss from being in person, is seeing my students looking at the statues that people have made before them and letting that inform what they do next. So I'm definitely missing that, and I'm hoping it'll work over Zoom. So you do that, you make statues, and then I go up to someone and I tap them on the head and I say, what would your character say right now? Since you know the theme or you know the story or whatever it is. And so I get that first line of dialogue, and then I go and I say, okay, what would your character say back to that? What would your character say next? And that's really interesting because that's always the time to learn about sequencing. And okay, does that make sense based on what the person said? Like, where we are based on, so if it's the storm, you're probably outside, it's probably not great, things like that, maybe. So just making it make sense. So then we go through that, and then based on what my students think, I say, okay, is this the beginning of the story? Is this the middle of the story? Is this the end of the story? They decide, and then we make the other piece. So if that's the middle, then I say, okay, what happened before that? And then we make another tableau. We do the whole thing over again. And then I say, okay, what's after that? And then we make the end. And then we put it all together. And you can, you can write it down if you want. You can change the dialogue. You can say, oh, wait, that didn't make sense when I said this. So this time I think I'll say this instead. And it really can be as simple as that. I've made like a million 1-minute plays just doing that. And it really works when you're adapting something. It's really helpful to have a piece of source material at the beginning, like a story, because then everyone sort of knows, so we talk about trolls, like, okay, what happens in trolls? Like the trolls are partying. Okay, great. What would the trolls say when they're partying? So that it's helpful to have that to go back to and, have a plot line and things like that. And that's pretty much how it works. So I'm going to try to do that with some of my students. I know I have two.
Yeah, we have, sorry. We have 2 here right now that signed up to be student volunteers. I'm sure the other 2 are coming because we said 4:30. So so if you volunteered, AKA Ria and Alice, I'm letting you in as a panelist. So you will be coming up on screen. I'm gonna do this. Hang on.
Oh,
Hi.
here they are. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
How is everybody doing?
Good.
I know Alex was dying to know what we're doing, so I'm excited to see your faces. I can start with 2 people because it takes a little time. There's a couple steps to the exercise, so if we want to start, if we want to wait, I don't mind either way.
I also wanted to know, there are a couple other students in the attendees. So if would anyone else like to join as a student volunteer? You can put it into the Q&A. Just say like me, I'd like to join.
Cool.
Not at this moment. Okay. I mean, yeah, you can just start.
Cool. Okay, so how's everybody doing? Can we get to a place where I can see, from your knees up or something, your waist up, something like that?
Yeah.
Ria's on the move. I love to see it.
Oh wait, our volunteers, students, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Oh,
The
yeah.
audience.
Thank you. What's your name?
I am Alice.
How long have you been coming to Wharton?
Not that long. I don't really know.
You don't know? Okay, what shows have you done? Or what shows have you done with Miss Sara and Mr. Chris?
I've done Frozen, and I think I've only done Frozen and Susical with you guys, and then with Mr. Chris and Miss Timmy, I did Moana.
Nice. Oh, no, I think Ria might be frozen.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, great. Ria, do you want to introduce yourself? When you're done, I don't want to
Just a second. Sorry.
disturb an artist ever.
Always a bit wobbly.
That's okay. See, these are so this is like something else. Like when we did Frozen, we had some technical difficulties. So we had to be like, hey, pause, hold on, we're gonna start over, which is something that has only happened to me one time in my whole theater career where the lights didn't come on during a song. So it's crazy on Zoom, but everyone has been really helpful and understanding, which is awesome. Okay, sorry. Ria, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Ria.
Do you know how long you've been coming to Wharton?
Wharton I've been coming to for about a year. I took piano lessons.
Nice.
And I did the Frozen on Zoom.
And something else?
And I did Moana
Yeah. Awesome. Just last week, right? Both of you?
last week.
Awesome. So these are some of my students, stellar students. So if everyone could make a statue, it could be of anything you want, anything at all. Okay. Alice, I love it. Commit to it. Commit to it. Oh, great. We're doing that. I love it. Okay, now make it a little bigger. Make it so I can see your face. What's your facial expression doing? Nice. Oh, yeah, I would say that those are level 10 statues. Excellent. Okay, now refresh. We're going to do something else. So can I have one of you volunteer to make a statue? Go ahead, Ria. Now add a facial expression. Now, Alice, it's a little hard because you're not in person with her. Is there anything you can do to add to this statue to tell a story? So if Ria is like doing this, stay frozen, Ria, and choose a facial expression so she knows what to look at. Oh, now we're happy. Okay, great. If Ria's doing that, how could you add to it? Anything you want. It could be the first instinct that comes to your mind.
I don't know.
So, okay, I have an idea. Could you give her statue a title? Go back to it, Ria.
I don't even know what she's doing.
Alice is being so shy. So she's doing this. Do you want me to give you a title?
I really don't know.
Okay, I'll give you a title. So if Ria's going like this, I'll say flying through space. So she's flying through space. So Alice, now could you do a statue that could add to that story? What would your statue of flying through space look like? Ooh, I love it. See, okay, so now suddenly the statue has changed. So while Ria's might look like really fun and exciting and maybe superpowerish, Alice's is like, I can't keep control. So great, thank you, perfect. So what I like to do next is I like to tap in and tap out, which I think is going to be a little too hard to do over Zoom. So when Ria does something like this, and Alice comes in and she's like, whoa. Then I like to tap, I say, okay, now that you have a new piece of the story based on what Alice is doing, can you tap Ria out? So someone will come in, they'll tap Ria out, and they'll come in and they'll change the story up. So maybe if this story was flying through space, and Alice comes in and she's like, whoa, and someone comes in and she's like trying to grab her, now all of a sudden, does anyone either of my students think they have a title? If Alice is like, flying away because of gravity and someone's trying to grab her, what could the title of that story be? Do you have an idea? Or any of my audience members, if you have an idea, you could pop it into the chat. What do you think, Ria?
I think it's wobbly flying through space.
Wobbly flying through space. Yeah, Alice, do you have an idea of a title?
Can't keep control while flying.
Can't keep control while flying. Amazing. And then we can continue. So like maybe the story is happy, maybe the story is sad, maybe all of a sudden something new happens and it changes everything. So that's super helpful. Thank you. Awesome. So I'll join you because we're missing a few of our students, so I'll join you so that there's a couple more in this story. So we're gonna do the same thing, except this time I'm gonna give you the title. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to tell you that this story is called The Journey, what do you think you would make your first pose? Ooh, I love it. And I love, Bria, I love how you're adapting. So like first you did like this and then you're like, oh wait, people on Zoom can't really see me. So you adapted, perfect. And Alice, what would your pose be? Oh, excellent. Okay. So I'm not sure how this is gonna work because I don't know where I am on Zoom, but if I was guarding myself from Alice,
Well, then I have to go this way because of my screen.
we would pick a statue just like that. And then I would say level 10. So if my students are like, I want you to be bigger and make sure that you're really committing. And then my next step would be, ooh, I see something interesting. What Alice is doing is interesting to me. So Alice, could you tell me, Ria, stay in your pose. It was beautiful. What would you say? What would the first line of this story be? Or sorry, what would the first line of this scene be? Go in your pose. That might help you. That might help inform you.
I got you.
Okay, and then I'm going to go next since I'm guarding myself. What do you mean? I don't even know where I am. Alice, what would you say back to that? Do you think that I'm supposed to be here wherever it is that I am?
Probably not.
Okay, and it kind of looks to me, this is just my interpretation, but it kind of looks to me like you're defending something or defending this land or in charge or something. So if I say, I don't even know where I am. Anything. What's your first instinct? Tell me where we are. Where are we?
I don't know where we are.
Make it up. Are we in the woods? Are we on a boat? Are we in the...
We're in the jungle.
Is this your jungle?
No, I'm just guarding the jungle.
Okay, so say that. Make it into a line of dialogue. We're in the jungle, blah, 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 blah.
We're in the jungle, and I have to protect it.
Excellent. Okay, Ria, whose side are you on? Where do you fit into this equation?
I am from the jungle which she is guarding.
You're from the jungle which she's guarding. Is that your line?
I'm from the jungle. Who might you be, trespasser?
Oh, this is beautiful. I love this story already. Okay, so we had Alice. I don't remember what your first line is. Do you?
You're in the jungle, and I'm protecting it.
And Ria says,
Who might you be, trespasser?
I don't know. I was just exploring.
We'll go home now.
Go home now. Great. So I showed up in this random jungle and this happens. Do you think that this is the beginning, the middle, or the end of the story?
Probably like maybe like a little before the middle, cause like you have to like start like in the beginning. Like I bet you have to you have to like show you like just like wandering up.
Oh, so maybe the beginning is silent. Maybe it's just like me appearing and then you appearing, something like that. So let's call this the beginning. So if Alice says, go home now, let's make statues of the next part. So let's make statues of the middle. I have no idea what the middle looks like, and it will be informed. We will decide what it is based on these statues. So what do you think happens next? Oh, Rhea actually started the story for us. So Alice, what do you think happens next? Make a pose. Okay.
Go home.
And this is a little hard because I'm on Zoom, but I would probably do something like, okay, so in the beginning we had, who are you? I don't know, I'm just here. I just wandered in, and Rhea says, I'm guarding this. So now Alice says, go home. And based on the angry faces and my scaredness, do you think I went home?
Yes.
You think I went home?
No!
I mean, we can, but I want to know how we can make that work and make sense.
Well, I think you go home because like you're so scared. That's what I would do.
So maybe that's the ending? Okay, so if we're in the middle and I haven't gone home yet, what do you think you could say? So with the beginning scene ended with go home. Now I haven't. You get in your statues, it will help. Get back in them. Rhea, you too. I love the jungle probably.
Wait, this one or the other one?
The second one. That one. And Rhea, can you put your arms on your hips?
Yeah, I just dropped something.
Technical difficulties. That's okay. Alice, do you think that you could give us a line of dialogue to start off the middle?
Wait, where did the middle end up? Like,
I don't know. Look at Rhea, look at your pose, and look at my pose, and decide. Oh, wait, I have an idea. I'm going to change mine.
what do you want?
I want to see the treasure.
You are not allowed to see the treasure, trespasser. The treasure is only for the people of the jungle. We don't have much money here. Go home.
Excellent. That was just a beautiful entire story. Alice, what do you say? Do you agree with her? Do you have something else to tell me?
Yeah, the treasure is too hard to get to anyways.
Ooh, that's really interesting. That created a whole other plot. So what if I were to complicate this a little bit and I were to say, well, I have the map. I know exactly where it is.
There are more than 1,000 guards guarding it.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Go ahead, Rhea. Go ahead.
Not to mention the great beasts.
Great.
And as I told you, go back to the outside world where you belong. The treasure is for the people of the jungle. We trade using the treasure.
Okay, so I'm going to say that that's the end of the middle. This play could go in 17 different directions. I'm going to give you a hint about what I think the ending is, okay? So if this were my pose, hold on, let me see if I can angle it in a way. If this were my pose, like I was like, how do you think the story ends?
You going home?
Okay,
Sure.
great. So what are your poses? Are you happy if I'm leaving? Do you feel like successful? I like that, Rhea. Like it's like a little bit of a moving statue. Like, okay. So I'll start the ending and I'll say, okay, I guess I can't have the treasure this time.
This time, you won't ever come here again.
Okay, I promise I won't.
That's right. Go home.
And then what if I left? That was awesome. That was such a good story. So what I like to do then usually is like I'll do a little debrief with my students. I'll be like, okay, what worked? What didn't work? What made sense? Did it make sense when I do this? And it's just so interesting because depending on the statues that my students make, or depending on the dialogue that they come up with, this show could go in a million ways. Luckily, I have some expert students here, so they kept it on track, but sometimes it goes like in the weeds. So we like to talk about that. So that's one way to make your own story. And then I'm gonna do one more quick activity with these students that I have here. So a way to adapt this when you're with your friends and you're reading something and you're like, ooh, I would love to make my own play using this, is I'm gonna read a story. It's a 1-minute story. I'm sure a lot of you have heard it before. So Rhea and Alice, listen up. One day, a hare was bragging about how fast he could run. He bragged and even laughed at the tortoise, who was so slow. The tortoise stretched out his long neck and challenged the hare to a race, which of course made the hare laugh. My, what a joke, thought the hare. A race indeed, a race. Oh, what fun! My, a race, of course, Mr. Tortoise. We shall race, said the hare. The forest animals met and mapped out the course. The race begun, and the hare, being such a swift runner, soon left the tortoise far behind. About halfway through the course, it occurred to the hare that he had plenty of time to beat the slow-trotting tortoise. Oh my, thought the hare, I have plenty of time to play in the meadow here. And so he did. After the hare finished playing, he decided that he had time to take a little nap. I have plenty of time, he thought, and he curled up against a tree and dozed. The tortoise, in the meantime, continued to plod on, if ever so slowly. He never stopped, but took one good step after another. The hare finally woke from his nap. Time to get going, he thought, and off he went faster than he had ever run before. He dashed as quickly as anyone could ever up to the finish line, where he met the tortoise, who was patiently awaiting his arrival. Do you guys know that story?
Yes.
Or the legend, or whatever you want to call it, folklore. So what would you say the beginning of the story is?
The beginning is like when the hare like is like just like so like full of himself and bragging about how fast he is, and then I forget who challenges them to the race, but I think the tortoise.
Yeah, great. And Rhea, what's the middle?
The middle is when the hare goes and runs fast, and then I think the end of the middle should be like when he curls up and has a nap.
Yeah, so he runs and then he takes a nap because he thinks he has time. And Alice, what's the end?
The end is when the tortoise just keeps going and going and going, and then he passes the finishing line. But then the hare wakes up and he's like, okay, I better get going. And then he sees that the tortoise already won.
Great. So do I have someone that could be the tortoise? Great. Nina, actually, this is perfect because Nina's wearing green and Alice is wearing, is it brown? It looks like it. Maybe it's
actually black.
black. Great. So we have my tortoise and we have my hare. So can you make some poses? Oh, perfect. And Rhea, what would the turtle look like? I love it. Great. So start us off. Who would speak first?
Oh, I'm so fast.
What is the can you make, what did it say in the story? It said, he bragged and even laughed at the tortoise, who was so slow.
You're so slow. I'm way faster than you.
And what do you think the tortoise would say back to that, Rhea?
Well, I challenge you to a race.
And I'm going to be the townspeople that react like, oh, a race. Alice, do you have anything to say about the race?
A race. Yes, a race.
Awesome. Great. And so that's the beginning. In the middle, I'll start it. I'll be the townspeople and I'll be like, I'm so excited for the race. I think that the hare is going to win. Alice.
I'm obviously going to win. I'm way faster than the tortoise.
Rhea?
We'll soon see about that.
Great. And they're off. Great. What happens now in the middle, Alice? Do you remember?
Well, I think I have plenty of time. I'm just going to take a little nap.
Rhea, do you think the tortoise maybe says anything?
He's asleep.
Great, and I'll be a townsperson. Oh, the hare took a nap. he thinks that that he can just beat him just by running fast, but the tortoise is going to keep on going. Great. Rhea, so this is now the end. Rhea, could you say something that maybe encourages yourself?
You can do it. One more step. There. Now to wait.
What happens next, Alice?
Well, I guess I have to finish the race. What? How are you already here?
Slow and steady wins the race.
How do you feel about that, Alice? Is there a moral? Does the hare come around, or does he just? I like that. That's funny too. Awesome. So literally, that took 10 minutes, and we just created a little play based on our story. So I think it's super easy. Did you guys feel like it might have been easier when you had a story? When I read it?
Well, I liked both, but I think they were both pretty easy. I guess making up a story was a little harder because like you didn't have something to the plot to focus on.
Right. I felt like when you heard the story and you heard the dialogue that they were saying in the story, that you were able to adapt that. But I thought you did a really good job with the other one too. It's a little more creative. It takes a little more time because you have to figure out.
And like this one, like you can just like change the lines a little bit, but you like know like what story you have to follow.
Yeah, definitely. Rhea, how do you feel?
I mean, I like both of them. They're quite easy and fun. I actually like the one which we created our own story because like it could go, as you said, a million different ways.
Yeah, like you could have kept going and like fought all the different monsters and guards that were guarding the treasure.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be thinking about that forever. Like, what's guarding this treasure? And have either of you ever done this before?
No, I don't think so.
My mom used to do plays when she was little with her friends, though.
Oh yeah, and she would make them up like this, or she would make them up.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so I love to use this, especially when we have a piece of work that my students are going to write themselves, because I feel like they can really embody the characters and they can get it into their bodies. And a lot of times my students are like, can we play that game again where we made a story? And like secretly, like you're doing all the work I need you to do and writing the whole show. Did you have fun? Did you like doing it?
Yes.
That was so fun.
Is there something that, is this something you think you could teach other people how to do if you wanted to make your own play with your friends?
Yeah, definitely.
Alice is making a little face. She's like, I don't know about all that. But it's cool because I haven't gotten to do it with you because I've only had, I had Alice in person for Frozen, but the first Frozen. But it's a little harder to do on Zoom because I can't see you all together. So it was nice to get to do it again because it's been a little while. So I appreciate it. And sometimes if you already have a script, so if you're coming in and you already have, like Mr. Chris's, they did Moana and they had a script, you can still use it. You can give the script and say, okay, in this point, Moana says, I love the ocean. What's her pose? What happens next in the story? What's that person's pose? What do they say back? So it's just something fun I like to do. It's super helpful. And like I said, you can do this at home with any story you have. And also if it's a longer text, like if you're like, I'm going to do Harry Potter, I'm going to do every single chapter in Harry Potter, you can definitely break it up into chapters and do, okay, what's the beginning, middle, end of this chapter? So yeah, it's something people can use at home. It's not just something I have to use in the classroom. So yeah, thanks, students. That was excellent. I really appreciate your help and your willingness to jump in.
We have a Brava, Rhea, and Rachel, which is Alice. Alice's name is Rachel.
Change my name.
I loved the original story. Thank you for that. So to wrap it up, Miss Sarah, do you have anything to say, or our audience, do you have any more comments or questions for us or students, anything?
I'll definitely say a closing remark, but Alice or Rhea, do you have anything else to say?
No.
Yes, you should definitely try this. Not on Zoom, like you could, but try it at home. It's really fun.
In person with other people, not on Zoom. I love it. Love to hear it. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for coming out and watching and going through that because you never know. You never know what's going to happen in something like this. Should I say anything else, Mr. Chris? I can talk a little bit about my camps. So I'm teaching. Let me pull up a calendar, else I'll get really confused. So I'm teaching Trolls this week with Miss Amia, and then I'll be teaching all of August. So I believe the first week is SpongeBob with Mr. Chris. The second week is it Toy Story or Mary Poppins? I think it's Toy Story and then Mary Poppins. But either way, I'm teaching all of August, so it doesn't really matter. And then the last week, I'll be teaching Broadway week with Mr. Chris. And Mr. Chris, are those your only other 2 camps? I know you're doing one now.
Yep, those are my 2. So yes, SpongeBob week and Broadway week. So if no one has any other questions or comments, I guess that wraps it up. Thank you, everyone, for coming, helping us keep theater alive right now. Thank you to our student volunteers. Okay.
What are the plays for Broadway week?
That is up to your interpretation. That will, again, we write the show, but that week is really up to the students. And the song and dance and stuff, that we could do like a bunch of different Broadway shows combined. We could have like different Broadway characters all together in one place, a mashup of songs, something like that. It'll be up to you guys. We kind of did that last year. But thank you everyone for coming. And thank you to our student volunteers for being so brave and coming up. Oh, we have a question. Good luck with the rest of the shows. Thank you, Cecilia. We have more Wednesday webinars. We have every week we have another Wednesday webinar. Some Broadway people, we have some more faculty and staff. That information is on our website with the schedules and the links. We have, as Miss Sarah said, we have more summer camps coming up. So, join us for those. We also have some classes during the fall coming up, and those are available to register on our website. So join us for those. Thank you, Miss Sarah.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Coming and doing this.
Have fun.
And yeah, so I guess that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Soon.